Bambu fails aplenty, a talk about right to repair, and a couple of resin printing failures. All this and more, PrintFixFriday, episode 88. We're almost in the triple digits. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here and you're dealing with some printer problems, leave a comment and let us know, and hey, while you're down there, hit that subscribe button and leave a like. Doesn't cost you anything. It helps our channel grow. We greatly appreciate it. We got some interesting fails for you this week and a kind of long talk about Bambu and the right to repair. While this is going to be a bit of a longer episode of PrintFixFriday, I think it's important for us to talk about it. If you do want me to talk about the right to repair and 3D printing in a longer format, let me know and we'll do a podcast episode about it where we'll talk for like an hour plus all about this topic and my feelings around it. I'd love to know what you guys would like to see. Let me know in those comments. But also, let me introduce you to today's sponsor, 3D Musketeers. I know! You're used to this by now. We sponsor PrintFixFriday every now and then, but we have another channel sponsor. They're gonna be sponsoring next week, don't worry. I know you guys like them too. But if you are looking to get some help with your 3D printing, 3D scanning, rapid prototyping needs, you can hit up the pros over at 3D Musketeers with over 40 years of combined experience and over 4 dozen printers. That hurts to say. I need more space. I'm still trying to figure out the shipping container thing. If you have the skills and understand how to work with government, hit me up. I still need that help. We're happy to help you how we can here at 3D Musketeers. And if you want to learn all about the business of 3D scanning, I was actually just on Maker That Money, the podcast over on Repcord's channel. We'll link to that episode in the description down below so you guys can take a look and learn about how we get into the business of 3D scanning and where spending 20 grand on a scanner actually makes sense. And that's not the most expensive scanner that we own. But if you do want to get some help, we're here to help you. But we understand that not everyone's really looking for some help right now, but they are looking to give a couple of bucks into that creator fund. And we have Patreon, YouTube channel members, and now a PayPal option to kind of support whatever needs you might have to be able to support the channel financially. That's your kind of thing. And at the $10 tier and higher, you can come hang out with myself and the entire 3D Musketeers crew and our fans over on our Patreon Discord server, where we hang out a lot, been having a lot of great talks, and we have a great group of people. So if you're looking for some help and all that, go join it. It's a lot of fun over there. But if you're not, you know the deal. Like and subscribe, share it, helps out the channel. Let's get into fixing some fails. First up, a fail of my own. And yeah, it's a Bambu fail. We're running like sub 25% success on the machine. And if you do hear some weird noises in the background, it's the Bambu. It is currently running right now. Doing some test prints to see if we can try to identify the problems. We have a part that printed with stock settings, stock everything. And yeah, that ain't right. That ain't right at all. Here's where it gets weirder. That's the same part, reprinted, the same settings, the same G-code. It works great, looks great, everything's great. So what's wrong here? This is the LiDAR on the machine. So for those that don't know, the Bambu Lab X1 Carbon uses a LiDAR system where it is basically measuring the height, width, and some other features, I would assume, of the filament that it prints. Now, this only occurs during the initial setup phase of the machine, which takes about 7 minutes, where the machine vibrates vigorously and then kind of measures everything. This is for input shaping, as well as things like pressure advance or linear advance, whichever one you want to call it, as well as your extrusion multipliers, everything, right? This machine is able to calculate that kind of thing and adjust it. I guess apparently you can get a bad LiDAR reading, and unfortunately, you won't know it till it's too late. There's really no way to detect this unless you're really paying attention to the print, and I regret to inform you that I just don't sit there all the time to watch it. So this really sucked. I was upset. So for those that don't know, these are the test pieces for the Hydra AMS. We were looking at doing a Hydra AMS, but with some things that we'll see later on, we're not going to be modifying our Bambu anytime soon. But when we look at the reprint, it looks perfect. In fact, it slides together, looks great, and everything like that. But this is a problem. If you can't get consistency out of something, especially something that is LiDAR-based, you've got a problem. Like our Artec Ray, which in the defense of the Bambu is $60,000, but is actual LiDAR, comes with a certification for how accurate it is. Like it's legitimately a metrology grade piece of scanning equipment. It's dead on accurate to that calibration or better. But without us being able to read the information off of the LiDAR sensor or the data that the machine is obtaining and then processing, we as users have no idea if our parts are going to come out good until it's really high enough for us to say, That doesn't look right. And if you are a fire and forget kind of person, which these machines are designed to be fire and forget, in fact, in their advertising, it's very fire and forget, right? Click print and go do other things. This complicates it quite a bit because now you're telling me that I can't trust my $1,600 printer to do the thing it's supposed to do. But because it doesn't save these things as profiles, right? We don't have like profiles that we can grab that have the information saved in it. We have to just either assume whatever the stock settings are fine, whatever the last setting that it had was fine, or we send it and hope for the best. I'm not a fan of this because it does tend to create a bit of a problem when you're looking for reliability and, more importantly, repeatability. If you have a way that you think you can solve this, let me know. I've made sure that there's no dust in the LiDAR sensor. It's actually pretty clean. Honestly, cleaner than I was expecting. But this one is baffling to me because you should not have two different prints where one looks like absolute crap and doesn't work, and the other one fits great. And it was the same G code. That shouldn't happen. Anybody that uses a 3D printer will tell you that is a huge issue if you're looking at, from a business standpoint, reliability. I would now be showing you guys a tweet from someone who found some issues with Bambu and wanted to talk about it. The issues with the wear from these bushings on the carbon fiber rods. But unfortunately, that tweet is no longer available. Thankfully though, good friend of the channel, Mr. Nero3D. If you're not subscribed to Nero, go do that. His links are in the description. Awesome content creator, really awesome guy as well, and has actually cameoed in a few of our videos. Let us know if you know which ones those might be. But Mr. Nero here had a stream, his little print and chill streams. I enjoy them. They're a lot of fun to hang out in, where he talked about this. Let's listen to what Nero has to say and let's get my opinions on it too.
Support claims that's okay, even though quality got worse. So yeah, so here's your bushing. These aren't bearings, these are bushings, by the way. Look how much freaking slop there is there. That print looks like ass. And they're like, oh, play in the tool head is normal.
Yeah, that face, it's not normal. Yes, if you have basically a bushing surface, you're gonna end up with play, but that much play is not okay. You might say, well, Grant, that doesn't look like a bunch of play. That was maybe 1/2 millimeter. 1/2 millimeter up there translates to quite a bit down here. The issue is, up until a little bit ago, you couldn't fix these parts.
Okay.
E1P.
So, can you replace a bearing? Okay, let's say one of these X joint bearings goes. I don't think there's anything under there. Nope, nothing under there. Okay.
And this is just basic right to repair.
You gotta fight for your right
to repair. If you can't fix your machine, you're supposed to what? Throw it away? Users got a little mad about this, so they posted some stuff. The saga continues. Bambu is basically saying, we are not allowing you to fix your machines. Machines that you've paid good money for, you can't fix them. Because, well, we're not gonna sell you the parts. So users have decided that, okay, we're gonna put out a guide on how to fix it. Well, Will, who works for Bambu, says, yeah, you can't talk about doing this. And interestingly, this came right after a set of videos from Joel Telling, the 3D printer, another friend of the channel, who did an entire video and a second video on not only his install of the Hydra AMS and his experience with it, but then also how to do it if you wanted to do it. In that video, Joel actually had problems with his AMSs and Bambu sends him new ones. There's a lot of comments from people that are a little upset. People that are dealing with these same problems that Joel did that are getting nowhere near the response. We've talked about this before on the channel. I like to use burner accounts and fake emails so that if I do have problems, I get to see what the average individual has to go through rather than the, oh, they totally know it's me, so I'm gonna get extra service because they don't want a content creator to have a bad taste in their mouth. But then to see this literally later on that day, talking about that if you discuss this, they're going to remove the post and it voids the warranty, which I get, and the Magnuson-Moss Act would state that if you do change something on a machine, that you would void the warranty for that section of the machine and not all of it. So if I change the actual part of the AMS that holds in the rollers, now the rollers aren't under warranty. But if I'm not changing any of the electronics, Mangus and Moss Act might have something to say about it. Now, I'm not a lawyer. This isn't legal advice, but this is anti-right to repair completely. Now, I get it. Third-party analysis aren't supported, and they can damage your printer. Fine. I get that. You want to avoid the AMS warranty? Fine. Even Will himself says, I know I like the Hydra mod too, but if you install it, technically you're avoiding the AMS warranty. Thankfully, the parts are cheap. That's not an answer at all, actually. And this was all because somebody swapped and showed you how to swap the carbon rods for steel rods, because at some point your bushings will go bad and there's nothing that you can do to fix it. Well, at the time. We'll get into that.
Spoilers.
We don't want to just contribute more to the e-waste. And we can see that the individual, I guess it was Daigo Filament, said, all my posts have been removed by admin. If Bambu Lab don't want others to find out about the wobble tool head and improve from the mistake, then so be it. Not a great look. And Bambu followed up, or Will followed up, with a post talking more about everything here. Basically stating that we're not going to void the entire machine warranty. Everyone took this as, oh, we're going to void the entire machine warranty. I don't see that here, right? It's the Hydra voids the AMS warranty. It voids the warranty for the AMS. Okay, fine. While I'm not happy about it, I can understand it from a business standpoint. They're saying that at the same time, it is important to note that any hardware or software modification done to the printer can lead to voiding the warranty, and it's best to read our warranty policy before you perform any changes. I guess that depends on how you define software, because if we really wanted to push for it, if you're running Orca Slicer, it's technically not the approved slicer for the machine. So where are we going to draw the line here? This is where I believe open source just off and runs with a massive win, because this is the closed source walled garden problem that we have. Yes, in a Prusa, if you upload your own custom firmware, you must cut a little jumper on the board that you cannot replace. And that way, if you burn out your motherboard because you uploaded bad firmware, it's not Prusa's fault. I get that that's what Prusa does because they don't want to deal with somebody else making a mistake. But Prusa lets you use any slicer that you want. Creality lets you use any slicer that you want. Sovol does. Anybody lets you use any slicer that you want. And this isn't Grant getting pissed off that Bambu is being anti-consumer. No, it's a literal right to repair issue. If you bought something for $1,600 and it had a problem and you couldn't get parts for it, you have a $1,600 paperweight. Funny, because they didn't used to sell this, but they do now. Bambu Lab actually sells an X-axis now for the X1 Carbon. So you can actually get replacement parts now, because previous to this whole hullabaloo that occurred, you couldn't actually get replacement parts for the X-axis. If you had bad bushings on your X-axis, too bad, home slice. And the individual that did this mod, which I think is a really valuable mod to have, basically had to drill out the carbon fiber rods, replace them with steel, and replace the bushings with bearings. And while the bearings will still wear, the rods will still wear, everything on that is still going to wear, especially at those speeds. Wear happens. When you're running that fast, that's friction, man. You're gonna have wear. But if you make it so users just can't service it, that sucks. And I'm told this process is a rightful bear. In fact, there's quite a few videos on how to do it. That's not something that an average user should be needing to do, but it looks like the average user will be needing to do it. I don't know, guys. What do you think about Bambu and their stance on kind of being anti-right to repair until they get called out for it? And how do you feel about this whole thing with Joel and other users? I'm glad that Joel got his issues resolved, but I am, and I would be salty if I was a user that was having the same problems and not getting the same amount of service. While I recognize that as content creators, we can get some level of heightened support because the work that we do is much more mission critical for videos. I'm also a business owner where I run mission critical parts all the time, and I shouldn't have to have an entire freaking X-axis at $90 in stock because I know I'm going to need to replace it at some point. This entire process looks to be quite complicated, and I recommend that if you need to do this, that you really know what you're getting yourself into before you go down this path, because this is very much something you can't come back from. It's a lot of effort. And if you do have to go through this, I wish you the best. And if you have any tips, let us know in those comments. I feel that Bambu is only allowing right to repair when they get called out for it. And if that means we have to keep calling out some of these bad behaviors in an industry that is founded upon open source, then we can. But when you start deleting things when it comes to doing mods on printers, when you as a mod yourself totally say that you love the Hydra AMS as well, you have to sit there and say, well, if everybody wants to do it and big content creators are telling you that this really solves all the main problems, why don't we start supporting it as a company rather than denying it? And what occurs is that we end up with other communities that pop up, other smaller Facebook groups or Reddit communities or wherever it might be, because they're not welcome in their home community. I believe it's important to create an environment where people feel welcome and feel able to talk about whatever they want within a, you know, relatively PC margin. Mods? Who cares? If it's going to void the warranty, then it voids the warranty. But people should still be able to talk about it. And since you only started enforcing it really after the video that Joel did came out and after the issues with the X-axis, I feel like this is more of a reactionary thing than it is a proactive thing. To be clear, I really like Joel, and I've talked with him plenty off camera. He's a great guy. I don't think that there's any ill will here. There isn't for me. And those of you that might be upset at Joel, it's not at Joel you should be upset at. You should be upset at Bambu for doing what some other companies do, but being really bad about it. If you are having issues with your machines and you need to get parts, hit me up. I'll be more than happy to do my best to help state your case, because if the company can't get the service side of helping people when they have problems together, then it's not a company that should be getting your money. I hate to say it, because as much as people don't believe this, I do want them to win here. I want Bambu to come out with a product that's going to last. It's going to do good work that people are going to love. Just because my experience sucks doesn't mean yours is going to. And at the end of the day, this is a right to repair problem. Plain and simple. Let's move on. Well, that's a new one. We've got some cured resin on the top of a build plate here. That's not where it's supposed to be. My best guess here, and let's see if I'm right. Yeah. I don't think this blue acrylic is actually blocking any UV light. I believe that the sun is still able to penetrate through, and that UV light is getting directly to the top layer, basically creating a pudding skin of resin on the top of your vat. Now, you got a little lucky here. That looks like you probably stored your build plate inside of the vat, so the actual cured bit was above your build plate rather than below it. If it was below it and you went to home, you're about to break your screen. Although the D2 is a DLP, so I don't think it works like that. If it is a piece of glass, maybe you'll get lucky. But if it's not a piece of glass and it's a thin sheet of film, you're about to dump resin all over that DLP module, and that isn't great. COP says that they're not printing in their backyard, but they're in a basement, and they think the morning sun arced through just right like the solstice through Stonehenge. Yeah, you could just have some sun that's hitting the top of the build plate. If you see this occurring, it is best to just cover the printer. Now, obviously, Anycubic, I'd like to see address this. You could look at getting a cover from a different printer that will work. Alternatively, you can just tint it if you want with a UV tint. That should work. Block out the window. The sun's trying to kill you anyways, so hide from it. It's the right move. Why do my transparent prints always Frankenstein on the side of the build plate? We got a sad Pikachu over here who's a little confused, a little sad, and we've got just some scarring. So let's take a look at our support. Oh, do you like Pikachu? Victoria wanted to join me for when we really looking at this Pikachu here. She was very interested in the Pikachu. But we can see that we don't have enough support material. We've got all these underhung surfaces. They're not fully supported properly. And we did a video all about doing your own custom supports. We'll card to it so you guys can take a look. When you have big surfaces like this, you have to make sure you support them adequately, but also understand that anything that touches support material is going to have little scars on it. And while, yes, you can go ahead and easily sand them off and post-process and all that, if you just reoriented the Pikachu so it was not as tilted like we see, you would be able to use significantly less support and be able to put it in areas that aren't, well, mission critical, as we would say. Next up, a fail from our Patreon Discord. Devoid Colossus here is having some problems with his Sovol SV06 not completing the lines. Now, this is normally going to be some sort of a coasting issue, but what is more likely a pressure advance or linear advance issue, where the machine is stopping extruding before it hits the end of the line. Now, we might also have some issues with our extruder tension. We should be looking at grub screws and things like that, but also the SV06, at least ours, came woefully too loose to push filament at any reasonable rate. So that could be part of the cause. He is running Cura. We did offer Prusa Slicer profiles, and in fact, they're available in our Patreon. If you guys want to get profiles for Prusa Slicer for the SV06 and the SV06 Plus, coming soon, we do have them available in our Patreon Discord. We're going to be updating them more as well, so that they go ahead and do the mesh bed leveling every single time. But this is a setting thing, and it could be related to some hardware, but I have a feeling it's more related to the software. I would look at linear advance and pressure advance inside of Cura. I'm not entirely certain what they call it inside of Cura, but it is good to keep in mind. If it's stopping before it's finishing a line, it's probably a linear advance or pressure advance thing. Next up, a fail from our Patreon Discord from Helpful Dan, Ben, who's one of our Australian fans, so thanks for watching. He's got a bit of a leak issue here with a E3D V6. We can see it's leaking from the quintessential places, right? Right at the top of the heat break. It's not great. He took everything apart, torched it, cleaned it up, put it back together, torqued it down at temperature. Remember, if you're going to be replacing your nozzle, it has to be done at temperature, unless it's something like an E3D Revo that is designed to be done at a colder temperature. And they just released Revo High Flow. We covered it in Wednesday's video. We'll card to it so you guys can take a look as well. But yeah, he's had a bit of a bear of a time. This is bad. And he said, okay, I know how to solve this. He's in industry. He knows how to tap and chase threads. So he ran a tap through the hot end. And we can see a lot of swarf. Now, it's threaded M6. And potentially, we don't know this, if he did use the right thread pitch or not. I'm going to assume that he did. You're seeing a lot of buildup here because these blocks are made of aluminum. And when you torque stuff down, you actually stretch the threads a little bit. Kind of once you torque it down once pretty good, it's difficult to get to that same torque level again because the aluminum starts to stretch, or aluminium, as I should be saying, starts to stretch. I don't think it would be this bad, but I'm also firmly trusting what Ben here is doing because he was basically live posting this inside of our Discord, kind of fighting this demon that is the hot end leak. Now, we said, hey, just retorque it, retorque it, retorque it. But if your threads are stretched and you're not getting a good contact point between the bottom of your nozzle and the bottom of your heat break, then they don't seal. And that is probably one of the downsides of the V6. It basically relies on these two mating surfaces touching for it to seal properly. And because you do it under heat, when you cool everything down, it shrinks and it really kind of cold welds it together. But if you do have any amount of shmoo or crap on the nozzle or on the heat break and you try to put them together, that is going to give area for filament to work its way out up through the threads, gumming up the entire situation. And unfortunately, when you get to this stage, it's time just to buy a new heat block. So he picked up a new heat block, new heat break, new heater, new thermistor, just kind of went all out, got all the parts that he needs and some spares as well, which we've talked about that having spares is incredibly important, but I'm not certain that this should happen this bad. I've never seen leaking that after a retorque didn't fix it, and in fact made it worse. This was after a retorque for him and it made it worse on his Prusa. Have you guys dealt with this kind of thing before where you've retorqued it and it is bottomed out, but you're still leaking and you're leaking from both ends? It's like his printer's got the food poisoning. If you know, you know. Spare parts kind of where you need to be. And Ben here got lucky. He had a 3D print shop local to him that had all these parts in stock. Well, he paid a little bit extra to get them. It got his printer back up and running. That's the importance of kind of knowing where your stuff is. And if you do live near a micro center, they carry most of these parts in store, so that's pretty cool. Let me know what you guys think of these fails in my fixes forum in those comments down below. And if I got anything wrong, I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on it as well. That's all we have for you all today. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. No, you don't do that. Your teethies, they sharp, they hurt. You no bite. Hey, hey. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me in my eyes. In my special eyes. We don't bite people. We are nice cats. We sleep. We eat. We poop in a box. And we repeat. Okay? Okay. I love you. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video, and a massive thank you goes out to all of our Patreon, YouTube channel member, and now PayPal member supporters whose names are listed right next to me at the $5 tier and higher. Thank you for what you all do, making these videos possible. Right below me will be the entire PrintFixFriday series, where you can go back, take a look at what we've done, how we fixed it, and time to time, how we've kind of laughed at it. Right next to that will be our video all on the High Flow Revo, which is the newest offering from E3D. Go check it out. I think you'll like it. I'll see you all down in those comments and the next one. Take care.